to get started, you're first going to need a plain white mask. You can get this from many different craft stores. I got this from the dollar store. Next, you're going to need about 5 metal hangers. I also picked up a pack of 10 at the dollar store. These are what you're going to use to make your petals. So the first thing you're going to do with the hanger is untwist it, and you're going to manipulate the shape to look like the mouth. You're going to make 5 separate petals or mouth pieces. And to get this to stay in its shape, you can just simply tie off the bottom of the metal. I did not cut off the excess yet because later on I wasn't sure how much I would need to attach it to the mask, so you might want to wait before removing the excess. To make the teeth, I'm going to use instamorph molding plastic. This is basically a bunch of tiny little plastic beads that you can heat up to mold into any shape that you want. I have a few helpful tricks when using the moldable plastic that I've learned along the way. So if it's your first time, don't worry, this stuff is super easy to use. The molding plastic does not stick to granite, it doesn't stick to metal, but it does stick to plastic. So you don't want to use a plastic tool when trying to mold your plastic. I like to use metal, so I'm going to use literally just eating utensils to help me move around and form the plastic. So I'm going to take a half a cup of plastic to start. I like to add more as I go, that way it doesn't burn from being in the water for too long. So I'm literally going to make a gajillion teeth-shaped pieces of plastic. Honestly, I did not count how many teeth I made, so that's going to depend on the size and shape of your petals. I did make them in different shapes and sizes, depending on the area that you place your teeth, which you'll figure out later on. So you might want to make these as you go. Honestly, it took me about 4 days to complete the teeth, and that was really just because, 1, it's boring. It's literally so tedious doing this, but 2, I wasn't really sure how many I would need. So you can totally make these as you go. You can see some I just rounded off, and then others I created a flat piece of plastic and used scissors to cut different shaped triangles. So these are going to be the flatter pieces. So for creating the actual inside of the mouth, you're going to take the plastic mask, and I first use a pencil to create 2 circles. So you can see that the Demogorgon has multiple layers of teeth. So the deepest and farthest back down the mouth and throat is going to be the center of the face, and then the next layer in front, and etc. So I'm going to start using a black paint and paint the first circle. Then I'm going to take my first row of teeth and use a hot glue gun and glue teeth all the way around this circle. You do want to leave space, so make sure that the teeth are not laying flat. They do have space underneath to give more depth. I also placed a layer of hot glue on top and around the teeth. This is going to create the illusion or look of gums. Then using a mixture of 2 red paints, which I will list all of the exact product and color in the description box if you guys want to shop those. But I'm going to use 2 different colors to help, again, make this more realistic looking. And I'm going to paint this along the gums. I do also add black to give more darkness and depth to this. So using the hot glue gun is a really great way to give that gum effect because it gives it that texture, which you can see here in the photos and close-up video. It creates different layers and a lot of textures for the paint to show off. So once the first circle of the mouth is done, you're going to repeat the same steps. So paint the black around the next circle, and then another layer of teeth and hot glue gun gums, and then you can paint that off again. So it should look something like this. Now, I did use matte paint. Honestly, I wish I used glossy, but I simply was able to add a gloss right on top once the paint was dry. This gave more of a wet look to it because it is supposed to be the mouth and throat. So just going back to the realism effect, the gloss will make it look more realistic. Now to create the petals, I'm going to go back to those hangers and I'm going to take masking tape and completely cover these front and back. This is going to create a base for you to work off of. It also gives it texture and keeps it lightweight. So once you have the first layer of masking tape on front and back, you can then add newspaper or really any type of paper, tissue paper, whatever you have really around the house is fine. Basically trash. You're going to build up the back to give this dimension. So to give your petals and mouth shape, I'm just going to call them petals from now on because that's what they look like to me, like a giant scary flower head. You're going to apply another layer of the masking tape right on top to get this to stay inside. So it's going to create a thicker backing. You're going to repeat the same step of the masking tape, newspaper, then masking tape again on all of the petals. So it should look something like this. Once you're done taping, you can go into painting. So I'm first going to take a layer of the reds and apply this all over, and then using the black, I'm going to add this in different areas to give shadowing and depth. I used a combination of different brushes and sponges to make sure I filled all areas of the tape because it does have so much texture to it. You want to make sure you get every groove and possible hole. Again, I did use the matte paint for this, so I did have to add a gloss. You can use a gloss finish or even like a glossy Mod Podge, but I do recommend just right off the bat buying a glossy paint. So once your petals are dry, because you don't want to get paint all over you, you can then start to glue on the teeth. This is also another tedious process. I've seen different versions of this where they do just around the outside or outer edge, and I've also seen it where the petals are completely full of teeth. So really it's up to you how you want your monster to look. While you wait for the teeth to adhere to the petals, I'm going to move back to the face. I'm going to use an ivory or cream, darker white shade and paint over the teeth. This gives it that more realistic effect due to the grimy, rotten looking color of the teeth. That's much more realistic because I'm going to throw it out there and say that I doubt Homeboy was going to the dentist or brushing his teeth. So yes, I literally painted every single one by one. You don't have to do this. This is just added effects because I am that invested in this monster. So here's just a quick update of what we have so far. The face mask as well as one of the petals here and all of the petals there. I have not attached them yet, but this is the concept. So now I'm going to paint the back or the body of the petal. You can paint the front and back first and then apply the teeth. I just wasn't sure what color I wanted to use, so I waited on it. This is a mixture of 3 colors. I really put a lot of time into this, and I went back and forth between multiple pictures and screenshots. I also rewatched the show so many times to try and get the correct coloring. Depending on if you are doing the Demogorgon pre or post burns, your coloring for the skin or outer layer will be different. He is more of a fleshy tone, beigey in the beginning, but after the burns, he does have that soot, bloodied, burnt effect. So keep that in mind. I used the masking tape as a base of the beigey flesh color. Then right on top, I used a gray. I'm using a sponge to apply this to give it the look of texture. And I'm just gonna do basically a stippling effect all over. I am letting the beige peep through, so I'm not completely covering this in gray. You can see here, the texture of the tape helps to give the paint different areas to go. Then any area I felt needed more beige, I used the khaki beige paint. It was basically an extremely similar color to the masking tape itself, but it helped just in case I added too much dark or gray paint. I then went in with like a very dark burnt chocolate brown color and very lightly using that sponge technique again, just applied this very randomly all over just to make it a bit darker and to give it more of a burnt effect. So now you can let this dry, and once that's dry, if you again used a matte paint, just add a gloss right on top. So here's where we are so far. You can see the mouth here open and closed. To make the creepy hands slash fingers, you're going to need some construction paper. So I picked up a couple sheets from the local Dollar Tree. You're going to cut these to whatever size you want. And basically you're going to cut out a triangle and then start folding it inward to create, what shape is this? Basically fold it inside so it's wider at the bottom and points out at the top. You know what I mean? Then you can tape this to attach it. Then you're going to cut 2 slits at an angle about 3/4 from the bottom and 3/4 from the top. You can remove these pieces from each other and then you're going to flip them upside down and slide them into each other. This is going to give you that harsh angle and give you more of that curved finger-like look. You'll obviously want to make these different sizes because your fingers are naturally different sizes, so different lengths to give a more realistic look to the hand. Once your fingers are made, you can then paint these the same way you painted the petals. Now to finish up my monster, all I did was add some fake liquid and scab blood I applied these all over the edges of the teeth and gum area. I also used a hot glue gun to get these little stringy pieces here to look like saliva, I guess. Then you can hot glue gun and tape for reinforcement a piece of elastic on the back to get the mask to stay around your head. Let this dry for 24 hours and you are good to go. You can finish up the look with whatever costume or body paint you would like, but this was my end result. So that is everything for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. I would love to know any requests that you guys have for me, so comment that below. Make sure that you guys are still subscribed and notifications are turned on, and I will see you guys in the next video.